Hey guys, I have a book haul to share with you today. So, as I always do for these book hauls, I have 20 books that I'm going to be sharing with you guys. And as always, a disclaimer, I am so far behind on book hauls, it's not even funny. So yeah, many of the books that are actually in this haul, I'm sitting here looking at all of them over here. Many of the books that are in this haul are books that I think I actually purchased. Let me think. Maybe way back sometime in 2021, maybe. I'm not quite sure. That's how old some of these books are that I've not even got around to hauling them. Like I said, I am super behind on book hauls. It's like I need to do one a week to catch up. First up, Clark and Division by Naomi Hirahara. And this is actually book one in this particular series. I just found out that this is a series to begin with. There's like a second book that's coming out sometime later this year in 2023. So yeah, what is this book about? Oh, and there's like a map here in the inside, like a cool little map. Okay. Chicago, 1944. 20-year-old Aki Ito and her parents have just been released from Manzanar, where they had been detained by the U.S. government since the aftermath of Pearl Harbor, together with thousands of other Japanese Americans. The life in California the Itos were forced to leave behind is gone. Instead, they are being resettled 2,000 miles away in Chicago, where Aki's older sister Rose was sent months earlier and moved to the new Japanese American neighborhood near Clark and Division Streets. But on the eve of the Ito family's reunion, Rose is killed by a subway train. Dear God, that's a big spoiler right there. Aki, who worshipped her sister, is stunned. Officials are ruling Rose's death a suicide. Aki cannot believe her perfect, polished, and optimistic sister would end her life. Her instinct tells her there is much more to the story, and she knows she is the only person who could ever learn the truth. Ooh, yes. Next up, Sister Song by Lucy Holland. King Cador knew this once, but now the land has turned from him, calling instead to his three children. Riva can cure others, but can't seem to heal her own deep scars. Uh, Kenya? It almost looks like it's Kanye. It's making me think of Kanye West. I'll say Kenya. It looks more like Kenya. Kenya battles to be accepted for who he truly is. Maybe it is Kanye. I don't know, since it's a guy. I thought it was a girl's name at first. Kenya, however you want to pronounce it, battles to be accepted for who he truly is, the king's son. And Sin? Oh Lord, these are some names. I'm gonna have to look these up. Whenever I actually read this book, I'm gonna have to look up how to possibly pronounce some of these names. And Sin dreams of seeing the world of finding a venture. All three fear a life of confinement within the walls of the hold, their people's last bastion of strength against the invading Saxons. However, change comes on the day ash falls from the sky. It brings with it Mirdahin, Meddler and Magician, and Tristan, a warrior whose secrets will tear them apart. Riva, Kanya, Kenya, Sin, three siblings entangled in a web of treachery and heartbreak who must fight to forge their own paths. Their story will shape the destiny of Britain. Ooh, this sounds good. This ain't like something about this is making me think it's like an Arthurian legend retelling of a sort. I don't know, because there's a character named Tristan, and then it says like there's a magician named Mirdahin, I think is how it's pronounced. And ain't that another name for Merlin in like Arthurian legend? So I'm not quite sure because this definitely does not say anything of the sort. But yeah, this sounds really good. I can't wait to get to this as well. And next up, Hyde by Craig Russell. I really love the cover design on this. It's like just really bold and in your face. I love it. Okay, so what is this book about? Okay, it says it's a sort of a reimagining of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So let's see. We're taking place in Victorian Edinburgh, Scotland. Chief Detective Captain Edward Hyde has a strange gift or a curse he keeps hidden from all but his personal physician. He experiences two realities, one actual, the other a dream-world state, brought on by a severe neurological condition. When Hyde finds himself at the scene of a heinous murder by the riverbank, with no inkling of how he got there or of the events leading up to the discovery, his alarm is triggered by two terrifying facts. First, the brutal crime scene involves the threefold death an ancient Celtic rite of sacrifice entangled with dark Scottish spiritual mythology. Second, Hyde's inability to remember any detail of his arrival at the crime scene may indicate a strengthening of the rare form of epilepsy he suffers from that causes him to lose time. He experiences amnesic absences where he cannot account for his actions, and nocturnal seizures that manifest as vivid and lucid dreams. With the city on edge, Captain Hyde wades blindly into the murder investigation, finding himself not only searching for real world clues, but trying to unravel the significance of the imaginary in the other world of his dreaming. The combination leads him to a foreboding place, the very place he most fears but has never fully confronted. Ooh, yeah, I'm definitely liking the vibe of this as some sort of reimagining of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Definitely cannot wait to get to this. I have read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde like once a very, very long time ago, and I didn't really like it. It's like I like the story, but like actually reading it, it just wasn't really for me. I did not like the writing style that much. Next up, The House of Special Purpose by John Boyne. And this book, part love story, part historical epic, part tragedy. The House of Special Purpose illuminates an empire at the end of its reign. 80-year-old Georgy Yakhminev is haunted by his past, a past of death, suffering, and scandal that will stay with him until the end of his days. Living in England with his beloved wife Zoya, Georgie prepares to make one final journey back to the Russia he once knew and loved, the Russia that both destroyed and defined him. As Georgie remembers days gone by, we are transported to St. Petersburg, to the Winter Palace of the Tsar in the early 20th century, a time of change, threat, and bloody revolution. As Georgie overturns the most painful stone of all, we uncover the story of the House of Special Purpose. Ooh, I'm kind of curious about this book because the title, The House of Special Purpose, that relates to like the Romanov family. The last Tsar of Russia, Tsar Nicholas II, and his family, when they were imprisoned and in exile after he was forced to abdicate the throne and whatnot, they went to a place far off, and the house was nicknamed the House of Special Purpose, and that was their place where they ended up dying at the end of the day. So yeah, I'm kind of curious about the title of this, if it does relate in any sort of fashion to the Romanovs, or if it's just kind of taken the title from that, since it does take place in Russia and whatnot. So yeah, definitely can't wait to get to this. Next up, The Death of Jane Lawrence by Caitlin Starling. And I love the cover design on this book as well. I'm a sucker for some good cover design, you guys. It's like so creepy looking with these hands and then like these threads like coming from the hands. So gross. And then like her little just like a little pendant down here, and there's like an eye in there. It's so gross. Oh my god, it's so creepy and good. Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay, let's see. Practical, unassuming Jane Shoringfield has done the calculations and decided that the most secure path forward is this: a husband in a marriage of convenience who will allow her to remain independent and occupied with meaningful work. Her first choice, the dashing but reclusive Dr. Augustine Lawrence, agrees to her proposal with only one condition: that she must never visit Lindridge Hall, his crumbling family manor outside of town. Yet, on their wedding night, an accident strains her at his door in a pitch-black rainstorm, and she finds him changed. Gone is the bold, courageous surgeon, and in his place is a terrified, paranoid man, one who cannot tell reality from nightmare, and fears Jane is an apparition come to haunt him. By morning, Augustine is himself again, but Jane knows something is deeply wrong at Lindridge Hall, and with the man she has so hastily bound, her safety too. And yet, it says that this is kind of like a Crimson Peak inspired novel. If you don't know what Crimson Peak is, it's a Guillermo del Toro movie that came out quite a number of years ago, and it starred Mia Wasikowska and Tom Hiddleston. I love that movie. It is so good. It's kind of like this gothic horror vibe to it. So yeah, this book is saying that it's fairly heavily inspired by Crimson Peak, and obviously also things like Rebecca. I'm definitely getting like Rebecca vibes in this as well. I don't know why I have not read this book sooner, you guys, because I remember when this book first came out, I was super excited and I had every intention of getting around to it and reading it, but just the way my TBRs kind of were and how I was reading things, it's like I just was never able to get to this, and I am, to this day, I am still absolutely dying to get to this book. I need to try and just force it in somewhere. Next up, Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. And the previous book that I read by Anthony Doerr was All the Light We Cannot See. I'm very curious to see how this book is going to go. All the Light We Cannot See, uh, it, it, I was okay with the book. It was fine, but I don't know. There was just things about it just didn't particularly gel with me all that much. Now, the TV show that's coming out, because All the Light We Cannot See, there is a TV show coming out with Mark Ruffalo. I am actually very excited to see that TV show because it almost looks like a case of me possibly enjoying the TV show over the book. But yeah, since I did have issues with All the Light We Cannot See, just something about the writing just wasn't jiving with me in the story. I am a little concerned about this book, but I still wanted to pick it up. I wanted to give Anthony Doerr another shot because there were things about this book that were still kind of shouting out to me like, oh, that sounds interesting. So yeah, what is this book about? I can't quite remember. I remember it sounding good though. Okay, it's set in Constantinople in the 15th century in a small town in present-day Idaho and on an interstellar ship decades from now. Okay, that was a lot. My mind has just now caught up with what I just read. So we're taking place in the 15th century, also in a small town in Idaho in the present day, and then on a spaceship in the far future. So we have like 3 settings, it sounds like. Okay. Anthony Doerr's gorgeous third novel is a triumph of imagination and compassion, a soaring story about children on the cusp of adulthood in worlds in peril, who find resilience, hope, and a book. In Cloud Cuckoo Land, Doerr has created a magnificent tapestry of times and places that reflects our vast interconnectedness with other species, with each other, with those who lived before us, and with those who will be here after we're gone. Okay, I guess I didn't really particularly need to read that little top bit. I should have just started way down here because this synopsis is freaking long. Good God. Okay, I still don't quite know what the book is about. I know the 3 settings. Okay, 13-year-old Anna, an orphan, lives inside the formidable walls of Constantinople in a house of women who make their living embroidering the robes of priests. Restless, insatiably curious, Anna learns to read, and in this ancient city, famous for its libraries, she finds a book. The story of Ethan, who longs to be turned into a bird so that he can fly to utopian paradise in the sky. This she reads to her ailing sister as the walls of the only place she has known are bombarded in the great siege of Constantinople. Outside the walls is Omir, a village boy, miles from home, conscripted with his beloved oxen into the invading army. His path and Anna's will cross. 500 years later, in a library in Idaho, octogenarian Zeno, who learned Greek as a prisoner of war, rehearses 5 children in a play adaptation of Aethon's story, preserved against all odds through centuries. Tucked among the library shelves is a bomb planted by a troubled, idealistic teenager, Seymour. This is another siege, and in a not-so-distant future on the interstellar ship Argos, Constance is alone in a vault, copying on scraps of sacking the city of Aethon, told to her by her father. She has never set foot on our planet. Okay, then there's like a little bit more that kind of goes back here, but it seems like this doesn't really particularly matter. This book it genuinely does sound very intriguing. I'm liking the 3 points of view, the past, the present, and the far future, and how this one book is like connecting all these threads together. That does sound really, really intriguing. So yeah, hopefully Anthony Doerr, I'm not disappointed with this like I was with All the Light We Cannot See. Next up, we have Kingdom of the Cursed by Carrie Maniscalco, and this is book 2 in this particular trilogy, of which I do have all of the books, but like I said, I'm so far behind on book hauls that I'm just now hauling book 2. Should I read this? I don't think I should really even read the synopsis of this since it is book 2. It is like fantasy fiction. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna. Hold on, let me look through this real quick. Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and read the plot of this because I feel like it'll have spoilers because I already feel like I've been spoiled about what happened at the end of the very first book. So yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and read this. I just recommend if you want to know what this trilogy is about, just go to Goodreads real quick and hit the very first book in the series, and it'll tell you all about what the series is about. Next up, I have me some Agatha Christie here, and that is Crooked House. I remember I bought this book way back when, like I said, maybe sometime back in 2021, for all I know, because I think Netflix had aired an adaptation of this novel when it had like Max Irons in it, and I loved that adaptation. It was so good, and it made me interested to pick up the book. I'm always looking for new Agatha Christie books to check out anyway. So yeah, this one. The Leonidas are one big happy family living in a sprawling ramshackle mansion. That is until the head of the household, Aristide, is murdered with a fatal barbiturate injection. Suspicion naturally falls on the old man's young widow, 50 years his junior, but the murderer has reckoned without the tenacity of Charles Hayward, a fiance of the late millionaire's granddaughter. Something about that just didn't sound right. I feel like there's like a sentence missing. But the murderer has reckoned without the tenacity of Charles Hayward, fiance of the late millionaire's granddaughter. For some reason, that sentence just doesn't seem complete to me. Am I just reading it wrong? I feel like I'm reading it wrong. Either way, this is like a family drama, just a bunch of relatives. Yeah, this like the patriarch of the family winds up dead. Of course, everyone is blaming each other. Like, did you do it? Did you do it? And yeah, everyone's kind of after like the fortune and whatnot. So yeah, it's just a big old family drama. Who done it? Obviously, in Agatha Christie fashion. Like I said, there was an adaptation of this that came out not too long ago that Netflix had, and it had Max Irons in it. I really liked it. Yeah, definitely cannot wait to get to this. You know, the great thing about Agatha Christie books, they're always so short. You guys, yeah, this book barely even goes up to 250 pages. It's like I love mysteries that are just short and to the point. Thank you, Agatha Christie. Next up, The Last Duel by Eric Yeager. And there was a movie that came out not too long ago based off of this non-fiction book. This is non-fiction. It had like Matt Damon, Jodie Comer, Adam Driver. I did get around to finally watching that movie recently, actually, and I did really like it. It was really good and entertaining and just a really intriguing story. And so I did. I wanted to pick up this nonfiction book that the movie was based off of to kind of get maybe a bit more historical backdrop that the movie might not have entirely gone into. So yeah, like I said, this is nonfiction. In the midst of the devastating Hundred Years' War between France and England, Jean de Carouge, a Norman knight fresh from combat in Scotland, returns home to yet another deadly threat. His wife, Marguerite, has accused Squire Jacques Legree of rape. A deadlocked court decrees a trial by combat between the two men that will also leave Marguerite's fate in the balance, for if her husband loses the duel, she will be put to death as a false accuser. While enemy troops pillage the land and rebellion and plague threaten the lives of all, Carouge and Legree meet in full armor on a walled field in Paris. What follows is the final duel ever authorized by the Parliament of Paris, a fierce fight with lance, sword, and dagger before a massive crowd that includes the teenage King Charles VI, during which both combatants are wounded, but only one fatally. Based on extensive research, The Last Duel brings to life a colorful, turbulent age and three unforgettable characters caught in a fatal triangle of crime, scandal, and revenge. The Last Duel is at once a moving human drama, a captivating true crime story, and an engrossing work of historical intrigue with themes that echo powerfully centuries later. Yes, I can't wait to get to this. I'm always looking for some interesting, entertaining historical fiction, especially on subjects I'm not entirely familiar about, you know. So yeah, and this is another really small book. Thank God. I am here for small books, you guys. Next up, The Dark Heart of Florence by Tasha Alexander, and this is part of the Lady Emily mystery series, and for the life of me, I am not quite sure what number in the series this is. Let me see if there's a way I can figure that out real quick. This looks like it might be book 16 in the series. I might have that wrong. It looks like it might be book 16. I have yet to actually start this entire series. You guys, I've kind of been slowly collecting each of the books because I would love to just binge my way through them. And yeah, I can just sit and read this synopsis back here because I think all of the books, even though they are part of the same series and they star the same characters, I think they can all kind of read as standalones to the best of my knowledge, that if you just kind of randomly picked up one in the series, you wouldn't be lost or confused, it seems. So yeah, this one. In 1903, tensions between Britain and Germany are starting to loom over Europe. Something that has not gone unnoticed by Lady Emily and her husband, Colin Hargreaves. An agent of the crown, Colin carries the weight of the empire, but his focus is drawn to Italy by a series of burglaries at his daughter's palazzo in Florence. Burglaries that might have international ramifications. He and Emily travel to Tuscany, where soon after their arrival, a stranger is thrown to his death from the roof onto the marble palazzo floor. Colin's trusted colleague and fellow agent Darius Benton Smith arrives to assist Colin, who insists their mission must remain top secret. Finding herself excluded from the investigation, Emily secretly launches her own clandestine inquiry into the murder, aided by her spirited and witty friend Cecile. They soon discover that the palazzo may contain a hidden treasure dating back to the days of the Medici, yes, and the violent reign of the fanatic monk Savonarola. Days that resonate in the troubled early 20th century, an uneasy time full of intrigue, duplicity, and warring ideologies. Emily and Cecile race to entangle the cryptic clues leading them through the Renaissance city, but an unimagined danger follows closely behind. And when another violent death puts Emily directly in the path of a killer, there's much more than treasure at stake. Yes. What's been intriguing me the most about these books, like I said, even though I've not read them yet, the synopsises for every single book just all sound so good because it follows the main heroine, Lady Emily, as she just goes from various different cities and towns and countries, and she's investigating some sort of murder mystery or treasure hunt or something, and a lot of times it harkens back to some sort of historical detail, like with this one especially, something that goes back to the days of the Medici family, which I love that whole plot thread right there. Next up, The Hidden Child by Louise Fine. Eleanor Hamilton is happily married and is mother to a charming 4-year-old girl, Mabel. Her husband, Edward, is a leading light in the burgeoning eugenics movement, which is designing the very ideas that will soon be embraced by Adolf Hitler. But when Mabel develops debilitating epileptic seizures, their world fractures. Their daughter's shameful illness must be kept hidden, or Edward's life's work and the family's honor will be in jeopardy. When Eleanor discovers Edward has been keeping secrets, she calls into question everything she believed about genetic inferiority, and her previously unshakable faith in her husband disintegrates. Alarmed, distressed, and no longer able to bear the family's burden, Eleanor takes matters into her own hands. Yeah, this sounds so good, and yeah, this was like a for real thing going on. If you were mentally ill, anything that was just wrong with you mentally, especially during this time of World War II, the Nazis were sitting there putting anybody mentally ill to death, just wiping anybody out. It wasn't just, the Jewish population. It was just anybody that did not fit in with, who the Nazis believed should be superior and the best, So yeah, this definitely sounds really, really good. I can't wait to get to this. Next up, The Bloodless Boy by Robert J. Lloyd. Ooh. The City of London, New Year's Day, 1678. 11 years have passed since the Great Fire ripped through the city, 20 since the death of Cromwell and the restoration of a king. London is gripped by hysteria, where rumors of Catholic plots and sinister foreign assassins abound. When the body of a young boy drained of his blood is discovered on the snowy bank of the Fleet River, Robert Hooke, the curator of experiments of the Royal Society for the Improving of Natural Knowledge, and his assistant, Harry Hunt, are called in to explain such a ghastly finding and whether it's part of a plot against the king. Wary of the political hornet's nest they are walking into, and using scientific evidence rather than paranoia in their pursuit of truth, Hooke and Hunt must discover why the boy was murdered, why his blood was taken, and what does the strange sequence of numbers inscribed on his body mean. Oh yeah, I am all for historical mystery thrillers. Yeah, guys, I love it. I think the reason I love historical mystery thrillers so much is because they don't have modern technology and computers, and yeah, plus in this instance, they have no concept of like DNA and fingerprints and stuff like that, So I always love reading these books and kind of the speculation of how forensics might have been done and how they were hunting down killers and stuff during this time period. So yeah, I just love historical mystery thrillers like this. Like the further back in time, the more interesting and intriguing sometimes, I think. And yeah, this book is also part of a series as well. I think it's called the Hooke and Hunt series, something like this. And yeah, they're all taking place about the same time frame and fighting crime in London. Next up, Gilded by Marissa Mayer, and this is book 1 in this particular series, and this is supposed to be like a Rumpelstiltskin retelling, yeah guys, which is super awesome. You don't see Rumpelstiltskin retellings all that often. You always see Cinderella and Snow White and this and that, but never Rumpelstiltskin half the time. Okay, long ago, cursed by the god of lies, a miller's daughter has developed a talent for spinning stories that are fantastical and spellbinding and entirely untrue. Or so everyone believes. When one of Sir Cyrilda's outlandish tales draws the attention of the sinister Errol King and his undead hunters. She finds herself swept away into a grim world where ghouls and phantoms prowl the earth, and hollow-eyed ravens track her every move. The king orders Cyrilda to complete the impossible task of spinning straw into gold, or be killed for telling falsehoods. In her desperation, Cyrilda unwittingly summons a mysterious boy to her aid. He agrees to help her for a price. Soon, Cyrilda realizes that there is more than one secret hidden in the castle walls, including an ancient curse that must be broken if she hopes to end the tyranny of the king and his wild hunt forever. Yes. And yeah, in typical Marissa Mayer fashion, this just sounds so unique and compelling and interesting. I've previously read her other fairy tale retelling series, the Lunar Chronicles. I read that series. I loved it. I loved her unique spin on just classic fairy tales. It's like she knows how to do a retelling. You know, some people just kind of do a retelling. It's very basic and standard. But Marissa Mayer, seriously, if you're looking for some unique fairy tale retellings, she is the place to go because she knows how to do them correctly and the right way. So yeah, I'm definitely very highly intrigued about her retelling of Rumpelstiltskin here. It sounds all sorts of great. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe this is a duology. And once again, with the majority of the books, I do have the entire duology, but I'm so far behind with book hauls, I am just now getting around to this first book. Next up, I have this little small paperback here. It's like a mass-produced paperback. I feel like I gotta put it way up here so you all can see. Because yeah, it's like way back here and it's so tiny. This is No Greater Love by Danielle Steele. And this book has something to do with the Titanic, you guys. And you all know I'm a sucker for Titanic stuff. And Danielle Steele, here we go. Once again, Danielle Steele loves to put her face right on the very back of all her books. It's just so creepy, you guys. Is it just me? Anyway, she'll just stare at you guys while I read the plot synopsis. She'll just sit here and stare at you guys. It was the maiden voyage of the Titanic, the greatest ship ever built, and in one fatal, unforgettable night, the sea shattered the lives and futures of an extraordinary family, the Winfields. Edwina Winfield, returning from her engagement trip to England with her fiancé and her family, instantly becomes a woman mourning the death of her parents and the man she loved. She returns to San Francisco with her 5 younger siblings and takes on responsibilities at the family newspaper, and at home they are overwhelming and unexpected. Edwina is intent on keeping the family together, and Philip, the oldest boy, tries to help before going on to Harvard in the Great War. But Madcap George, the source of laughter in the family, is drawn to Hollywood, and his sister Alexis eventually follows him, courting both excitement and disaster in the film world. The 2 youngest, Fanny and Teddy, remain with Edwina. For 12 years, Edwina carefully avoids any romantic involvements, but as each child sets off on his or her own to Hollywood, to Europe, and elsewhere, Edwina frees herself from the ghosts of those she loved and lost on the Titanic. Her life is far different than it would have been, but in some ways far more exciting than expected. So yeah, it seems like the Titanic part of this book is probably just going to be very quickly at the beginning, I imagine, probably very, very quickly. And then, yeah, obviously getting through the sinking. And it sounds like she loses everybody on the Titanic, like her parents, her fiance, and then all that's left are her siblings that she returns home to. So yeah, I like the concept of this. You know, a little bit of Titanic in there, but then pretty much the aftermath of the disaster and how this woman is coping and facing that tragedy. Next up, I got this one right here. This is like a really pretty cover. I love the blue, the icy blueness. It makes me think of Elsa from Frozen for some reason, you guys. I think maybe just because of the title, because the title is The Ice Swan by Janelle Silzinski. Once I actually get around to this book and reviewing it, I will definitely look up a pronunciation guide on Janelle's last name here, because there's no way I'm pronouncing that right now. Okay. 1917, Petrograd. Fleeing the murderous flames of the Russian Revolution, Princess Svetlana Dulsky hopes to find safety in Paris with her mother and sister, but the city is buckling under the weight of the Great War, and the Bolsheviks will not rest until they have erased every Russian aristocrat from memory. Svetlana and her family are forced into hiding in Paris's underbelly, with little to their name but the jewels they sewed into their corsets before their terrifying escape. Though Wynne Macallan was born the second son of a Scottish duke, the only title he cares for is that of a surgeon. Putting his talents with a scalpel to good use in the hospitals in Paris, Wynne pushes the boundaries of medical science to give his patients the best care possible. After treating Svetlana for a minor injury, he is pulled into a world of decaying imperial glitter. Intrigued by this mysterious, cold, and beautiful woman, Wynne follows Svetlana to an underground Russian club, where drink, dance, and questionable dealings spill over like splashes of vodka. Out of money and options, Svetlana agrees to a marriage of convenience with a handsome and brilliant Wynne, who will protect her and pay off her family's debts. It's the right thing for a good man to do, but Wynne cannot help but hope the marriage will turn into one of true affection. When Wynne's life takes an unexpected turn, so does Svetlana's, and soon Paris becomes as dangerous as Petrograd, and as the Bolsheviks chase them to Scotland and beyond, Wynne and Svetlana begin to wonder if they will ever be able to outrun the love they are beginning to feel for one another. Ooh, yes, I love this. Next up, I have another non-fiction book here, and this is A Dead Mountain, the untold true story of the Dyatlov Pass incident by Donnie Ikar. And you guys, when I first found out about this event here, I can't remember how exactly I found out about it, but I was like, what? Oh my god, this sounds just too wild and bizarre. So yeah, I immediately kind of stumbled across this book here, and I was like, I have to get it. And yeah, it's not very long at all either. Okay. In February 1959, a group of 9 experienced hikers in the Russian Ural Mountains died mysteriously on an elevation known as Dead Mountain. Eerie aspects of the incident, unexplained injuries, signs the hikers cut open and fled their tent without proper clothing or shoes, a strange final photograph taken by one of them, and radiation readings on some of their clothes have led to decades of speculation over what really happened. This gripping work of literary nonfiction delves into the mystery through unprecedented access to the hikers' own journals and photographs, many translated and reproduced here, rarely seen government records, dozens of interviews, and author Donnie Ikar's own retracing of the hikers' fateful journey in the Russian winter. A fascinating portrait of the young hikers in the Soviet era and a skillful interweaving of their story, the investigators' efforts, and Ikar's contemporary examination here for the first time is the real story of what happened that night on Dead Mountain. Yes, this sounds so eerie and creepy. I can't wait to kind of see what kind of speculations this author forms in regards to all these mysteries and craziness. Next up, Sparks Like Fire by Nadia Hashimi. I hope I got that, Hashimi. Okay. The daughter of a prominent family, Sitara Zamani grows up in privilege in Afghanistan's thriving cosmopolitan city. The 1970s are a time of remarkable promise and progressive culture in Kabul, but in 1978, a communist coup shatters the 10-year-old girl's world. When the president and Sitara's entire family are assassinated, only she survives. Dear God. Smuggled from the scene by a soldier named Shaher, Sitara finds her way to the home of a female American diplomat who adopts her. In the United States, Sitara takes on a new name, Ariana Shepard, and eventually becomes a renowned surgeon. A survivor, Ariana has refused to look back, choosing instead to bury the devastating loss she endured. But 30 years after that fateful night in Kabul, her world is rocked when an elderly patient appears in her exam room, a man Ariana never expected to see again. It is Shaher, the soldier who saved her, yet who may have murdered her entire family. Seeing him awakens Ariana's fury and desire for answers and perhaps revenge. Realizing that she cannot go on without learning the truth, Ariana embarks on a quest that takes her back to Kabul, now a battleground between the corrupt government and the fundamentalist Taliban, and through shadowy memories of the world she loved and lost. Yes, this sounds so good, you guys. I can't wait to get to this. Next up, I have Out of the Rain by V.C. Andrews. I'm not going to read the plot synopsis of this because this is a duology. I do have the very first book, this one. You know what? I actually won both of the books in this duology. I actually won both of them through Goodreads giveaways, you guys. How bizarre is that? Getting a full duology like that as giveaway wins, that is just so nuts to me. But hey, I'm glad. I didn't mean I had to purchase these. But yeah, from what I recall of the synopsis for the first book, it's about a little girl who runs into this woman that she just kind of calls the Umbrella Lady, because the very first book in this duology is called The Umbrella Lady. So yeah, I don't know if she's like kidnapped by this woman, and yes, she's trying to get reunited with her father and whatnot. So yeah, I guess this is like a follow-up to that, like maybe what kind of happens from that, I guess we shall see. But yeah, I can't wait to get to this duology, and I've never read anything by V.C. Andrews before, which I'm assuming this is like a ghostwriter, correct? A ghostwriter, because I mean, hasn't she been dead for quite a while? Next up, Seven Dirty Secrets by Natalie D. Richards. Okay. On her 18th birthday, Cleo receives a mysterious invitation to a scavenger hunt. She's sure her best friend Hope or her brother Connor is behind it, but no one confesses. And as Cleo and Hope embark on the hunt, the seemingly random locations and clues begin to feel familiar. In fact, every clue seems to be about Cleo's dead boyfriend, Declan, who drowned on a group rafting trip exactly 1 year ago. A bracelet she brought him, a song he loved, a photo of the rafting group taken just before Declan drowned, and then the phone calls start. Declan's voice taunting Cleo with a cryptic question. You ready? As the clock on the scavenger hunt ticks down, it becomes clear that someone knows what really happened to Declan, and that person will stop at nothing to make sure Cleo and her friends pay. Can they stop the hunt before someone else winds up dead? And yeah, up here at the top it says, I know 7 secrets. One caused the fall, one did nothing, one saw it all, one didn't care, one used their head, one played the hero, one was left for dead. Yeah, there's like a very and then there were none vibe to this, which I'm totally digging. But not only that, if you guys have happened to play the video game Until Dawn, there's very much about this that is kind of giving me Until Dawn vibes. So yeah, I guess kind of a combo of Until Dawn and Then There Were None. It sounds like a great combo right there. And the last book that I have for this haul is The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse by Charlie McKay. I actually purchased this at my place of work. I get an employee discount, so I was like, well, I might as well just use my discount and get this book for the hell of it. It's just a little small thing. um, I don't really know too terribly much about this book, other than the fact that it's very popular, and I think it's won a bunch of prizes and awards and like literary fiction and whatnot. And it was even most recently turned into a movie, if I'm not mistaken, like an animated movie that I think got like nominated for the Oscars and everything. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what this story is about, because it doesn't even have any sort of plot synopsis. I mean, I think it's kind of self-explanatory in some ways, because it's about a little boy and a mole and the fox and a horse. And yeah, you can see that on the cover, the boy there and the horse and the mole and the fox and whatnot. So I'm guessing this is some sort of book, I guess primarily for children, you know, about learning and growing and developing and, you know, friendship and kindness and stuff like that, I'm assuming. And yeah, the artwork is really cute, and it's very cute and simplistic and whatnot. And yeah, I mean, even on the inside, here on the inside, that's really cute. So yeah, I mean, I don't know too terribly much about this, like I said, but it looks sweet, it looks cute, something I can get through in like a day, probably. So you guys, that is it for this book haul. In the comments below, are there any of these books that you guys have read in the past that you either enjoyed or hated? Any of these that I should get to sooner rather than later? Just let me know your thoughts and feelings. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.